I'm pretty sure that this is another video that probably won't be as popular as a lot of videos that I do, you know. But I do need for people to know, you know, that we as a race of people need to stay away from a lot of movies, right? Most of our movies that we watch are like very violent, very negative, and our heroes are negative, you know. One of the movies being Scarface, right? So, for those that haven't seen Scarface, it came out in the early 80s, right? The first time I ever seen Scarface in my life was when I was about 12 years old, right? And I'm not lying, as a young black kid, I really looked up to Al Pacino. Well, rather Scarface. I didn't know, you know, that, you know, the act and all of that, right? Al Pacino. I just knew him being Scarface, right? So I rooted for him. And when they killed him at the end, you know, I was just thinking in my mind, yo, Scarface is gonna get up out of that pool of blood, and he's gonna get up and he's gonna shoot everybody because he's invincible. I really was rooting for that dude. And subconsciously, I was unaware of the reason why. And the reason why is because Scarface resonated with the black community. I mean, you know, he came from the gutter, and he climbed his way to the top, fearless, ambitious. He people feared him. You know, he had the money, the woman, he had everything. You understand? So that sort of felt like our story, right? But not so much. Not so much. You know, of course, Scarface was based on a fictitious character. It wasn't a real person, you know, but the way things occurred in the movie, you know, such as the Cubans making well, specifically the white Cubans, making a massive exodus out of Cuba because they didn't want to deal with the so-called communist Fidel Castro, right? And they came to the Americas, you know, America rather, and lived in Miami, right? In which they still are. They still predominantly, basically they run Miami. In other words, that's what I'm saying, right? And it's true that most of the success or the buildings and the infrastructure and everything that Miami consists of was spent or the progression of the city was off of drugs, cocaine. Yeah, yo. That's real. But the person Scarface never existed. And if he did, there's multiple of Scarfaces, right? But it was a story of a man and his friend coming from nothing and making themselves out to be the biggest drug dealer in Miami, right? And okay, that's great, but it wasn't our story. And that there's a separation between the Cubans, the whites, the this, the that, in which I've seen a consistency in all of these movies, whether it's white people, a white movie, or whether it's a movie about Cubans or another race outside of the blacks. I've seen the consistency in it, right? So this is what I'm about to explain to you, right? So in the movie Scarface, he's taking a bubble bath, and Mekhi Phifer, which is playing his wife, you know, was snorting, you know what I'm saying, taking Quaaludes and shit, right? And he says, you know, you can't have no kids, you don't want to do this, you don't want to do that, you know, you're nothing, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to work, you don't want to do nothing, right? And he said, why don't you, you know, find something to do? Why don't you go to an orphanage and work in an orphanage? Or why don't you help the blacks out? And I'm not lying, I seen the movie Scarface as of recently, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. So let me get this right. We are America's charity case? And it's not just in Scarface. This is in The Goodfellas. When one of the dudes came out, ran out to a restaurant and was like, a nigga stole my truck. And Godfather Part 2 or Part 2 or Part 1. These are movies that we admire and we love and we adore. But they're constantly shitting on us. Godfather Part 1 or Part 2. When I think it was the Godfather or who they were having this conversation, he was like, yo, just dump all of the drugs into the Negro section of the Negro community. He said, don't sell drugs in our community. The prostitutes, the pimps and all that stuff, don't do that in our community. Take that shit over there where the blacks are at. And I could go on and on with movies that we adore and we love, and we accept the Italian culture, right? But they constantly have shitted on us. I just seen, and this is one of my favorite movies, I just seen The Wolf at Wall Street, right? And it's one part of the movie where he's in an airplane, right? And the dude from Titanic, David, whatever, I don't forgot his name. It doesn't even matter, right? The main character, right? So he's in an airplane, they're doing drugs, having sex and all the rest of that stuff, right? So the dude wakes up, the wolf, right? The main character, right? He wakes up and he's trying to figure out why do they have him like strapped to the seat. And his friend is like, yo, listen, you was bugging out, this and that and so forth. And you called the pilot the N-word. It's this subtle disrespect that's in white movies that I can't tolerate anymore. So therefore, I no longer support them. I no longer look at them. They will never be art to me. Never. And we could go on and on and on, especially the dude that created that made Django, Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill. The list goes on. I forgot his name. He uses the N-word throughout all of his movies. And it's crazy to me how black people don't ever say anything about this shit. Ever. They zip quiet. If I'm not mistaken, in Casino with Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci, they use some derogatory names suggesting towards black people. I don't know too many movies that don't pick on black people on a subtle level, on a conscious and a subconscious level. I don't. And some people may say, well, you being all picky, man. Anybody can say this and that. So you mean to tell me if I start talking about Jews, right? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I can't say anything about the Jews. Anything. It is not tolerated in America. Everything that I may say about the Jews is anti-Semitic. But the minute that a white person says something about using a derogatory term to talk about black people in their movies, it's art. You taking it too serious. I can't believe y'all, man. And matter of fact, I can't believe I used to look at those movies. And I accepted it when Goodfellas said, hey, the dude walked in. I forgot the scene, man. I think it was when they were doing some type of heist or something like that, and they were using trucks. I think they were stealing cigarettes. I don't know the scene, but you all know the scene for those that look at mafia movies. And he ran in a diner and was like, yo, a nigga just stole my truck. We accepted that. We accepted that from Goodfellas. We accepted when Godfather Part 1 or Part 2, one of the two, when he was like, and this is what's so crazy. They really did it. The mafia really did that. I could see if this was a fictitious movie and that, it wasn't true. But they really dumped drugs inside our community. The CIA used the mafia to dump drugs inside our community. And this is our entertainment. I know, listen, I used to collect all of the mafia movies. I had Godfather Part 1 all the way to 4 or 5, however far I went. I had the Goodfellas, I had Donnie Brasco. I had Casino. I had every mafia movie you could think of. And I sat there and I tolerated them using the N-word. I tolerated them when they used to use derogatory terms suggestive to black people. And I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. I'm not going to put up with it. I don't have time for your slave jokes and none of that. None of it. I will not support none of that shit because it's not art. That is a very touchy subject. Black people have been through and still going through a lot. But I still see it in white sitcoms when they'll say some shit like, well, you know, you don't want to work like a slave. And we accept that type of shit. This is the reason why there's no honor, loyalty, and respect in the black community. Because we don't expect it. We only expect it from one another. We don't expect it from no one else. Everybody else could walk all over us and treat us like shit. Everybody else we turn a blind eyes to. I used to watch the Bugs Bunny cartoons, and they made fun of black people. I used to look at Tom and Jerry, and they made fun of black people. I could honestly tell you throughout all my life, there's never been a moment where there was a sitcom, a movie, or something, a commercial that didn't have no racism in it. It's as if they get a kick out of just consistently kicking us in the ass, whether it's physically or verbally. And I just don't understand the whole Stockholm Syndrome thing. I just don't understand the whole cognitive dissonance thing when it comes to black people. You can't just ignore the truth. You can't just love and adore people that treat you like shit. That doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't. This is the reason why sooner than later we're going to have to form those that are highly intelligent. You know what's so funny, man? I really just did not like W.E.B. Du Bois. But I truly understand, and I may get his words twisted, but I truly understand what the talented who and what the talented Tiff was for. I understand it. It's your boule. It's I'm not talking about boule. Of course, boule is advisor to the king. But I'm talking about boule meaning like your top elite, your elite black people. Not advising or going back to the king, back to white supremacy and suppressing the blacks. No, I'm talking about your elite black people. We gotta separate ourselves. I'm not talking about the Greeks and those fraternities. I'm not. It's not who I'm referring to. Because I just can't. I'm not going to even go there with it. But I mean, this is a side note. Why? How are y'all still joining these Greek fraternities, and then have the nerve to say, well, you know, the Greeks, we taught the Greeks. So why are you still calling yourself a Greek fraternity then? Why are you not calling yourself an African fraternity? And don't you know what the Greeks did? But you're still doing the steps and stomps and shit, and going by Greek letters. And y'all, listen. This is the crazy thing about Epiphany out the ass. This is so crazy. You all are in school, getting an education, so it's obvious that you know what the Greeks were about. And if you don't, you have a library on your college campus, and you can find out. You could trace your Greek fraternity and tie it in with the Greeks, and you can see just how foul the Greeks are, or were. The Greeks were pederasts. They practiced pederasty. They were fornicating with animals, practicing bestiality. And I said fornication, yes, you want to call yourself a Greek? Like, you know what? Let me tell you something. This is some personal shit. I'm being real with y'all. Seriously, this is some real personal shit. I gotta create an ideology so I can wake up every day just to be sane, just to be active. I'm not lying, yo. Seriously, I have to do that, because if I don't create a narrative, like I'll explain what I'm saying. So every day I get up and I say to myself that this is really like literally a matrix. This is not real. And that when I die, this is a test. I had to pass the test or fail it or whatever have you, but when I die, I'm going to the real world. Other than that, being here, this is a test. And there are people that are walking around that are asleep, but they're not really asleep. They're just part of the matrix. You understand? Like, say for example, if you're playing a video game, right? There are people in a video game that don't realize that they're part of the video game. But you realize that you're playing the video game. That's the point that I'm making to you all. I have to psych myself out so that I can wake up every day and be sane. If I don't, I will be tripping off of LSD, mushrooms, different pills. I understand why the kids are doing what they're doing. I disagree with it, because that's just a cop-out. That's you being weak. You're not able to face what we call reality now. You have to be under some type of substance. So I'm not agreeing to it. I understand it though. I understand it. Because I'm telling you, I have to psych myself out every day. I have to create a narrative that may or may not be real in order for me to be functional. Because this shit right here is some ass backwards shit. I'm just being real with you. Had you asked somebody, fuck it, we gonna be real. Had you asked a white person, yo, would you marry Osama bin Laden's daughter, son? Would you want to be part of Osama bin Laden's family? Would you trust Osama bin Laden's family? And you know what they would do? They would say no. I wouldn't be part of that tyrannical, person called Osama bin Laden. But what does his children have to do with him? And they would say, I wouldn't want to be part of anything that has to do with Osama bin Laden. Anything. I wouldn't have him entertain me. I wouldn't have his family educate me. Do you understand? Do you see where I'm coming from? Do I have to literally say it in front of your face for you to get what the hell I'm saying? So why are we doing it? Why are we doing it? If they wouldn't do it. You see, smart asses, you know what you're gonna say? You're gonna say, well, you do have black people teaching white children under white curriculum. You have to pass their tests. You have to get their certifications in order for them, take it back, in order for us to teach their children. I can't wait to hear what you all have to say in the comment section. I can't. It makes my motherfucking day when I read the comment section. I pop some popcorn and I sit there and I read it and I'm saying to myself that these guys are totally whacked out. I really do think some of you all are goddamn out of your mind, like literally. Or you're just part of the Matrix. You're part of Super Mario Brothers. You don't realize that you're the Coopers. The Coopers that walk around. Or you the Mushroom Man. You don't realize that. You just don't. You don't realize, like I play Metal Gear and I play, God of War. You don't realize that you're just one of the soldiers in Metal Gear that just walk around and I can creep up on you and do what I want to do to you. You don't know. You don't have no conscience. You're just standing there. Man, if y'all continue to look at these movies, hey, what do they say? Cool beans? What the old people say, cool beans to you. But I'm not doing it anymore. Let me tell you something, and I'm done. I swear this is my word. White people are not gonna put up with the bullshit. If you start talking shit about white people in your movies, guess what? White people will walk the fuck out. Now, there's a difference between comedy and a regular movie. Now, if you joking, white people could take a joke here and there, but they not going to see no movie where you bashing white people and you just shooting white people up and you talking shit about white people and you saying they ain't this and they ain't that. They all they eat is mayonnaise sandwiches and da-da-da-da-da. And it's not humor. It's like you really like picking on them. You ain't gonna make it. That movie's gonna get shut down. Because they don't play that shit. But we do. We'll look at Goodfellas. We'll look at Scarface. We'll look at Godfather Part 1, 2, 3, 4. That constantly shit on us. We'll look at that dude. Why? All of a sudden I'm just having some forgetful shit happening. You know, the dude that directed and produced or whatever, Kill Bill and Pulp Fiction. We'll look at his movies and he uses the Reservoir Dogs. He uses the word freely. Just casually, it just rolls out of his mouth. Or not his mouth, the actor's mouth. That's crazy to me, man. Other than that, man, I'm done.